going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for, at the request of Mr. Riker Davis, we're cracking open Bestiary Number 6. Today it's all about one of the templates I'm the most excited to use, but never really have found a chance or proper place to use it. It's the Entothrope. If you guys are liking what you're seeing, remember, like, subscribe, ding the bell. Today, this episode of the Forgotten Race Review was brought to you in part by Buffalo. Buffaloes are not insects, but that's okay. Thank you for all your help anyway, my friend. Now, let's hit it. Alrighty, so the Entothrope occupies a strange place in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. Many of us who are outside the hobby might not necessarily think the template need exist. And matter of fact, I think I've seen some 3.5 homebrew for like a werewasp. But of course, as we know in Pathfinder, the vermin is not an animal, ergo cannot have a lycanthrope version of itself. And so to recreate everything from the Thri-Kreen to the Formians, which of course we see in D&D and Pathfinder, all the way up to the hive mind anthropomorphic alien insect things of your choice, the Entothrope is the template we have. An Entothrope is a humanoid, much like a lycanthrope, with the ability to turn into something other than itself. In this case, we're looking at large insects or insect-humanoid hybrids. Other than that, it's basically the same function. If a natural Entothrope shows up and bites you or stings you while in hybrid or vermin form, you've got that DC 15 fortitude save, or, you've got the Entothropy. And it functions basically the same, except we aren't looking for the full moon here, we're looking for the new moon. At the next new moon, the victim involuntarily assumes vermin form, forgetting their identity. Belladonna, but of course not Wolfsbane, can counteract this, Heal can counteract it, and it presents the same general roleplay challenges that any other involuntary transforming template presents. Now, let's get right to it, shall we? So, if you subscribe to that kind of thing, the Entothrope template will increase your character, your NPC, your monster, your thing's CR by +1. The humanoid will gain the Shape Changer subtype, and of course takes on the characteristics of a vermin. That vermin must be within one size category of the base creature, so your hill giants can get stung by huge scorpions, your humans cannot. And of course, the Entothrope's hybrid form is the same size as the base creature or the base vermin, whichever happens to be larger. In hybrid or vermin form, the Entothrope uses the base vermin's natural armor +2, and of course has DR 10 over silver in hybrid or vermin form. If your Entothrope was natural, the afflicted get only DR 5. The creature's speed is unaffected depending on the form used. The hybrid form, because remember you've got 3 of them. Your base form that you started out with, the form of a giant insect, and the hybrid were thingy. That hybrid uses the base creature's speed unless the Entothrope has a CR of 5 or higher, in which case it gains all of the base vermin's additional speeds, which, you know, that makes a lot of sense to me, because a lot of these things are going to have burrow speeds, climb speeds, fly speeds, swim speeds, because, you know, flight of the bumblebee all over the place. In hybrid and vermin forms, of course, the Entothrope will gain the natural attacks, as well as dark vision out to 60 feet, while retaining all the special attacks, qualities, and abilities of whatever you were when you started. Of course, turning into a thing requires actions, and your equipment does not meld between forms, so think about that before you're breaking out of one carapace and into another carapace, and one of those carapae is the word? I'm not sure. Don't wreck your plate mail, is what I'm getting at. But of course, going into vermin form, you know, will save your plate mail from a fate worse than a rust monster. Is that a vermin? Would you play that? In the comments, let me know. Anyway, it's a move action if you're a natural Entothrope to turn into any of these alternate forms. The afflicted takes a full round action and a DC 15 con check. On the night of the new moon, the afflicted gets a +5 morale bonus if you're turning into bug or bug people form, but a -5 on that con check to go back to normal people form. An afflicted Entothrope will automatically revert to humanoid form with the next sunrise or after 8 hours of rest, whichever comes first, and when you kill an Entothrope, it of course reverts to its humanoid form. Now, we've already talked about that curse of entropy, and much like the lycanthrope, there is the animal empathy going on here, except, of course, in our case, it applies to vermin related to our vermin forms, even though most vermin are mindless. That said, an Entothrope can attempt diplomacy checks to alter such a creature's attitude, and when doing so, gets a +4 racial bonus on the check. Doing so even implants that vermin with a modicum of intelligence, which then allows the Entothrope to train the thing, or otherwise use them as allies. Of course, if you're afflicted, you only gain that in insect or hybrid form. Nevertheless, if you've ever wanted an army of swarms of insects, which are real good, there you go. On top of all this, in human or hybrid form, an Entothrope gains a +4 bonus on saves against mind-affecting effects, and in all forms, the Entothrope receives a -2 to its intelligence, but a +2 to its wisdom, as well as a +2 to dex and con, ooh, nice, shiny, in hybrid and vermin forms. And of course, your Entothrope uses the base creature stats or the base vermin stats, whichever happens to be higher, whilst in hybrid or insect form. Now, from where we sit right now, as of Bestiary 6, we have the Were Mantis, Were Wasp, and that pretty boy who's been staring at you for the past 10-ish minutes or so, the Were Spider. This is definitely a template I hope we see further explored as we go. A Were Scorpion, a Were Stag Beetle, a Were Fly, you gross. Because this template provides really, really unique roleplay options. It's one thing to be bitten by a wolf that's a little too smart, and then suddenly you have the urge to go forth and hunt neath the full moon and like bark or howl at it or something. The insect mind is entirely foreign, right? It's a whole new thing that usually is completely mindless. Now you've introduced that to your character. Now suddenly your character is acting differently, and that differently can look a lot of different ways because you're kind of going straight into uncharted territory on this one. I actually am not sure how I would play this. I'm not gonna lie. As I sit here and think about it, oftentimes I will play low-end characters. Guilty min-maxer, of course, you caught me. But then that further -2 and that introduction to an alien entity honestly is probably kind of scary. Especially if my character didn't know what happened and then suddenly it's just an urge to, in the case of like a Were Wasp or a Were Ant or whatever bug with a queen, so on and so forth, the instinctive urge to bring resources back to the hive. The Entothrope has horror campaign written all over it from an entirely different angle, and I think that's what makes it really interesting. And I think that's exactly where I would go with this. If I happen to end up GMing for an Entothrope at some point in my career, to say nothing of if we see like Skinwalker variants of these, the hive mind is something that certainly can be kind of worked together in a party-style system. Working towards the greater good of the entire group certainly applies to like a party-type setting, so it makes sense. But nevertheless, this template and truly the race that could come from it has Uncanny Valley written all over it. And like, also I want to play a scorpion person. That would be sweet. But what do you guys think about this? Have we played an Entothrope? Have we fought an Entothrope? Can I borrow some of your homebrews of insects to put in my GM pocket? Because I don't know when I'll use them, but I really want to. If for no other reason, hey, fly speed and the source of your own poison. Take that, overpriced, powerful poisons. Anywho, throw your thoughts in the comments. We'll keep the conversation going. And next week, we're diving into 3.5 and updating one of my favorite races from 3.5 that I played in Pathfinder on a leadership character for a little while, bringing it into the 21st century, or at least the shinier RPG. Next week, it's the Loxodon. See you then.